Hiya cats and kittens, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. We are continuing with Fallstreak. We are headed to school to build a bridge. Up ahead, Nolita was poking through the bushes in search of flowers. Far behind, Lorona and Triss were floundering around the weight of their cargo. Under the promise of budding trees, we once again failed to travel to school as a proper group of 5. Oh, school's adorable. Despite our morning antics, we somehow managed to arrive at school early. Upon entering the one classroom building, an array of empty desks meets us, save for one. Amidst the illuminating light of the early morning, she was there. A young woman whose presence held a mysterious allure to it. With immaculate form and perfect posture, she sat unmoving at one of the far side desks. "Good morning, Erwina." "Hey, Erwina." "Hello, Ade, Kalia." Angling her head in our direction, Erwina returns our greeting with a vague nod. While I knew Irina was the oldest student at our school, it was difficult to get a good read on her age with how her eyes were always bandaged over. "A flower outside that suits Ade. I couldn't find one." "Ha! Ha! We made it!" "Noleta, Lorona, and Tristan as well." As if taking his cue, Trish summarily keels over and kisses the ground. "Don't mind him, that's just Trish being the usual drama queen." "I see." Something felt different about Erwina today. She felt absent-minded, her responses subdued, lacking their usual self-possessed weight. "Is something troubling you, Erwina?" Now that I think about it, wasn't it odd she was sitting back here at the back row desk? "Feel free to tell us about it. I love to meddle, you know." "You're quite perceptive, aren't you, Ade?" With a light chuckle, Erwina traces her fingers across the surface of the desk before her. "It's true that I have something on my mind. As you may know, none of these desks in the back row are currently in use. Everyone occupies some spot in the world in the terms of space and resources. However, it is not as though the school is lacking in those. Even though the possibility of filling these vacancies exists, it remains unrealized." Erwina's idle hand motions comes to stop, and her voice taking on a mysterious tone. "It's a strange feeling, this feeling that where someone could be, there is no one. Where someone could be, there is no one." Erwina's word conjured a certain image in my mind's eye. An image of her sitting here lost in thought, all alone, thinking, perhaps, of the absent warmth of someone who would have been here with us today had the cards fallen differently. "Sorry, Erwina, but there might be less space in the school than you think. If you look in the desks back here, you'll find they're all stuffed to the brim with books. Seems like the hoard of some hopeless bibliophile. So yeah, we might not actually have any room for new students." "The heck? If we don't get any new classmates because Ade's such a bookworm, I'm gonna be mad. At least my books don't sell me out." Hoo-hoo, I suppose it would get rather cramped given how lively it already gets around here. I will probably have to report the troublemaker using school property without permission, though. "Take me away, officer." I jest, of course. Schools are for learning, after all. It's senseless to hit the hen for laying eggs. Now that I think of it, though, the 5 of you are here quite early today. "That's right. We're really pumped for today's competition. Is Mr. Naru not here yet?" It appears Lona's attempts to resuscitate her fallen comrade have not been bearing fruit. "Worry not, Father will arrive shortly." That's right. Though a student in the name, it was more accurate to say Erwina taught alongside her father, if anything. "Oh?" Long have I waited the day my students arrive early. Such is their enthusiasm to learn. Mr. Naru is an eccentric individual who had constructed this school using his own fortune in the wake of the fire collapse. The fact that he even personally taught was a testament to his dedication to the next generation. I still remember his baffling self-introduction upon meeting everyone at the beginning of the school year. Naru can be interpreted to mean white wings of learning. If it's difficult for you to understand, you may refer to me as Mr. Naru from now on. Just like on that first day, our enigmatic teacher was casually toting around a gargantuan valise. I doubt anyone has my morning lark over here beat in terms of getting up at god-awful hours, though. Parting with one's bedsheets isn't a Herculean ordeal for everyone, Mr. Night Owl. Smiling wryly, Arena rises to assist Mr. Naru with the unpacking of the valise contents. Though she generally relies on a retractable rod to navigate, I notice that sometimes she doesn't seem to need it. I wonder how she does it. Echolocation. Echolocation, she's a bat! That thing sure is living up to its reputation as a bottomless black hole, isn't it? We watch as the valise poppily shrinks as it releases from its bulging payload. Is this for the construction competition? What looked like a disassembled table and the components of a board game had been laid out before us. About that, I decided to postpone the bridge building contest until tomorrow. We will be having a lecture on the history of Socotrine instead, with these materials serving as a visual aid. No, it can't be true. It was all in vain? Blah. Letting out a strange cry, Lorona sinks to the ground with a soft... The floor seemed to be quite the popular resting spot today. Ade, I don't have to use your materials. Though she probably means to say something along the lines, it's good I don't have to impose on you again, I decide to misinterpret. I see. I knew this day would come. You've finally grown sick and tired of me and my shoddy materials. I understand, Noletta. I'm just not good enough for you anymore. Even then, I never imagined it would hurt this much to get discarded and forgotten. Wiping my eyes, I sniffle and lower my gaze. It's not like I want you to use my materials or anything. Ade, I'll use your materials, so don't be sad. She looked like she was about to cry. There was actual tears in her eyes. You're so devoted, Noletta. Unable to contain myself, I giggle as I reach up to pinch her on the cheek. Mon mew! She makes some weird noises, but doesn't try to resist as I play with her face. We'll wait for several more students to arrive before commencing class. Our class had around 12 regular students in total. Since it had such a wide age range, lessons could fluctuate from learning basic language one day to advanced science the next. Fortunately, the school was well equipped for dealing with its unique circumstances. I guess that's one perk of being funded by a wealthy teacher. Those of us still standing killed some time poking at Lorena and Trish before class finally begins. Now then, without further ado, let us begin the lecture on Socotrine's history. Catan! It looks like Catan! The entire class gathered around what could only be described as an oversized board game. Catan! Mr. Naru always had an unorthodox style of teaching. Conventional teaching tends to lean towards fixed methods and rotate memorization, but Mr. Naru was fond of something he called divergent thinking. As much as he tries to dress it up, though, I'm pretty sure he just gets bored easily. Is this the map of Socotrine? Indeed, it's far from accurate terms of scale, but this board game has been laid out to simulate Socotrine's basic layout. Overall, Socotrine can be divided broadly into 5 areas. The Shintera Plains, the urban core, the greater and the lower Padavelt Highlands, and the muted forest of the east. With a wave of his pointing stick, Mr. Naru redirects our attention to the blank boundaries surrounding the hexes. One of Socotrine's most distinguishing features is the dense wall of an unnavigable One of Socotrine's most distinguishing features is the dense wall of unnavigable mist that surrounds and separates it from the world outside unknown lands. Mr. Naru, what's the board game piece supposed to be? You can think of the boxes as population concentration indicators and the cylinders as major industrial centers. The big piece in the center represents the heart of Socotrine's infrastructure. The capital city is Socotra. Ade, where do we live? Huh? Probably around here somewhere. As for the school, it's likely here. Ade, maps are really amazing. What do you mean? They show the world like you're high in the sky, even though nobody's been in the sky before. That's not true. I've been in the sky before, you know. Really? Wow. You shouldn't believe everything Ade says, Noletta. This is the year 195, right? I was born in 194. That is correct. Current board states reflects the state of Socotrine 15 years ago when it was ruled by the old aristocracy. Socotrine was in the process of recovering from a period of famine and plague when the Masters' Revolution occurred. Yes, Socotrine had long been aware of the existence of unknown lands from artifacts that washed up on Ifget's northern banks. However, 195 marked the first time that actual people came from beyond the mists. In 195, a convoy of people describing themselves as refugees from devastated land sailed down the river Ifget and made contact with Socotrine the first time. Though the old aristocracy welcomed the refugees at first, they eventually began to suspect that the convoy would attempt a coup. Mustering all of Socotrine's military might, the old aristocracy attempted to preemptively capture the refugees. However, they were soundly routed by the refugees' convoy elite combat unit, the Lost Children. In what came to be known as the Masters' Revolution, the old aristocracy was overthrown, and the leader of the Lost Children and the refugee convoy, the Valoran Master, was instilled as Socotrine's sovereign ruler. Is that true? Is it true that the Valoran Master was a girl? The Valoran Master was indeed female, though it would be more accurate to call her a woman than a girl. I heard she was a genius sword master that took a squad of Socotrine's finest all by herself. There are rumors her unit annihilated entire armies back when she was in the unknown lands. Sounds like she was pretty good at bashing heads, but this Valoran Master is a good ruler. In regards to that, let us jump ahead to year 200. Mr. Naru takes the opportunity to make adjustments to the board state before counting. The 5 years that followed the Masters' Revolution are often considered a golden age in Socotrone history. Drawing from the advanced technology, expertise, and knowledge the refugee convoy brought with them, Socotrine underwent a period of rapid innovation and reform. Mortality rates plummeted as contemporary medical science made its debut, and birth rates skyrocketed as socio-economic living standards improved. However, that all came to a stop when the fire of collapse happened. A solemn silence took over the board as Mr. Naru set about making major modifications on the board. I had been born shortly after the fire of the collapse, so I have no memories of the event, but there was no doubt it had been a dark time in Socotrine's history. In August of 200, for reasons that are not known, the shroud of mist that usually only surrounds Socotrine borders warped and covered the sky. Prismatic flames of unknown properties rained down from the mist, laying waste to major swaths of Socotrine's landscape. The area below Evet's southern bank suffered serious damage in particular, transforming it into an unrecognizable wasteland. Look, all the boxes disappeared. I remember. I remember. If you got burnt by that rainbow fire, you had to get special treatment or else. The refugees of 195 had experienced a similar disaster in unknown lands, so they were able to provide limited care. But there were too many victims to avoid a great loss of life. The fire of collapse did not mark the end of 200, though. In 195, the Valoran Master had taken a single Sokotrini pupil following her rise to power. Shortly after the fire collapsed, that pupil challenged the Valoran Master to a single combat, defeating her and claiming the title of Sokotrin's sovereign ruler as his own. He continues to rule Sokotrin to this day. We know him now as Lord Cecil Cotard. Ade, that's your daddy, right? Yep, that's my pops, all right. He must have been crazy strong to defeat the Valoran Master. Huh. I've always wondered what kind of relationship Papa had with his master. I just don't understand. For what reason did Papa feel compelled to usurp the Valoran Master? Unfortunately, there is not much insight I can offer on that matter. It is true, though, that Lord Cotard has largely carried his master's legacy in terms of policy. That just made things more confusing. The pieces simply weren't lining up. Naturally, there were some that opposed Lord Cotard's succession, unconvinced that the inexperienced young Cotard could lead Sokotrin in its weakened state. The remnants of the old aristocracy took the opportunity to attempt an uprising. However, having also inherited leadership of the lost children, Lord Cotard crushed the uprising, scattering his opposition and consolidating his rule. It is now at last we arrive to the current day of 210. Sokotrin's reconstruction has been a slow and steady process. It has been helped by several unexpected boons. Though I mentioned before how the fire collapse had mysterious properties, one particularly unusual effect that can be observed in what used to be the southern wastelands. It is believed the ashes of the rainbow fire nourished the soil somehow, as the land has recovered at an alarming rate, blooming into what is now known as the Ivget's Garden. It's scary how pretty that place is. Many townspeople avoid it because they are afraid of the unfamiliar types of flowers that blossom there. In any case, that concludes my lecture. Irina will now take over for any questions that you may have. Passing the helm to Irina, Mr. Naru retreats to his desk for a breather. I've been curious about this for a while, but don't the refugees from unknown lands have a name for the place they came from? That is a delicate topic. It is something of a taboo for the refugees of 195 to speak the name of their homeland. It is believed that for many of them, the name of their homeland is synonymous with atrocity. As such, they are often simply referred to the ULs. In that case, what about the Valoran Master? What was her name before she assumed her title? Huh. The Valoran Master is a big enigma. Even today, her real name is likely something only the members of the Lost Children know. I see. Perhaps I should ask Papa or Mr. Jamila sometime. That's all the questions I have for now. Surrendering the floor to the other students, I wander over to the classroom windows lost in thought. Sokotrin's closed world dilemma. There has only been one record instant of anyone successfully traversing the boundary of the mist that encircles Sokotrin's borders. The Valoran Master, how did she lead the refugee convoy to Sokotrin? I couldn't help but feel it's a key piece to the puzzle, a puzzle that I've learned to solve for as long as I can remember. Not enough. It's still not enough. When I came back to myself, I find the class in the midst of lunch break. Wandering over to our usual group's island of desks, I met with a pleasant surprise. Irina had pulled her desk over as well, bringing our count up to a total 6. Irina usually eats with her father at his instance, but it seemed our capricious teacher was taking a nap, having gobbled up his lunch during the Q&A session. I take my seat amidst an already continuing conversation. Dasu Rito Mina Twash Da what? Dasu Rito Min Twish are churned to wafu disu mantu. I see. Are you and Trish planning to do anything special for your 12th birthday? Newfound respect wells up inside me at Irina's ability to comprehend Kalia's incoherent gabbling. Kali wasn't fond of being fed by other people as such. It was not uncommon for an unintelligible garbling to leave her mouth as she went about stuffing her face with her lunch. Even after the Second Great Food War, may the casualties of the dark time rest in peace, we only ever gained the right to clean her face after a meal. While not as animated as Kalia, watching Irina eat was also an interesting experience. The manner in which she confirmed the position of her lunchbox, selected an article of food by its relative remaining portion, and brought it levelly to her mouth was like clockwork. And sure, maybe we'll visit Ava's garden. Ah, maybe we will visit Avid's garden. Geez, Kalia, don't I always tell you not to talk with your mouth full? Avid's garden, though, huh? That's a wonderful spot to go for your birthday. Could it be somehow I'm the abnormal one for having no clue what Kalia is saying? As she alternates between chastisement and casual conversation, Lorona picks out a tasty-looking morsel from Tristan's lunchbox. Since the five of us are always share our lunch together, we have a habit of taking from each other without restraint. It was something we did without even thinking, so it wasn't hard to understand why our guest Irina froze in shock when her spoon suddenly encountered Tristan's fork scourging around in her lunchbox. Huh? What are you two doing, Trish? Don't just go pecking through Irina's lunch without her permission. What are you doing, Trish? Don't just go poking through Irina's lunch without her permission. Geez, I can understand it now. A brutal kick from Kalia to some undefined location under the deck causes Trish to spray a mouthful of his lunch all over an unfortunate Lorona. Kyle, what is happening? You'll have to forgive us, Irina. We're all accustomed to sharing our food with each other. I guess Trish couldn't resist upon seeing how tasty your food looked. Is that so? Irina pauses for a second as she considers my words. In that case, allow me to sample what you brought as well. A well-meaning smile rises to her lips as she pushes her lunchbox forward, signaling it's fine to take from her. At her invitation, the five of us who had always been curious about the palate of rich people eagerly dig in. Wow, it's so delicious. I didn't know you were such a good chef, Irina. Hey, Trish, stop stuffing yourself and give me some of that bourgeoisie goodie. Naturally, Kalia didn't seem to have any issue accepting aid when it came to jacking the best parts of the meal. Come on, Noletta, open up. You can't just eat nothing but pasta all day. Say ah. I poked at Noletta's mouth with a spoonful of Irina's lunch until she reluctantly parts her lips. Getting this child to eat something other than pasta could often be quite the struggle. After ensuring that Noletta would be safe from malnutrition for another day, I have a sample of my own. So this is what Irina ate. Though it was certainly tasty, something seemed a bit off about it. Just to clarify, I didn't make any of these. It gets a bit chaotic when I'm in the kitchen. As if recalling a silly memory, Irina shakes her head. Of course, Father didn't make it either. With measured movements, Irina probes through the lunchboxes we have placed in front of her for easy access. How do you find the fancy dishes of commoners, milady? Refreshingly proletarian, if I may say. Why, I simply must have more. Okay, I'm going to save here. We're going to finish up the school day on the next episode. Thank you and have a good night.